Hello, welcome to Release Your Wings. We're in a special series now on experiencing God. And tonight's idea about experiencing God is beyond. I'm Dan Bagley, and I'm interviewing Shireen Chadha. Welcome, Shireen.
Thank you, Dan.
So let's start by defining our terms. What does it mean that God is beyond?
Beyond here, what I mean is not physically just beyond something, but
Right.
spiritually he's beyond a few concepts.
Uh-huh.
And I was specifically thinking of 4 concepts.
Good.
He's beyond the cycle of birth and death.
Mm-hmm.
That we come into the cycle of birth and death, but he doesn't. He stays above.
So God is eternal in that
Yeah,
sense.
eternal. Like I come into the womb, I become a child, a youth, old age, and all of that, but he doesn't have all of those things going on.
And within the BK belief, we're all eternal, but we're the eternal ones that keep reincarnating, cycling through birth and death.
Yes, through human bodies, and he doesn't.
Got it.
He's beyond. And then the second beyond is that he is beyond experiencing physical pleasure or pain. Actually, physical things. You could say sweet and sour, or hot and cold, or thirsty and hungry. He's beyond experiencing those things. Like we experience that, but he doesn't have those experiences because he doesn't have a body.
Right.
So he doesn't experience that. And then the third one is that he's beyond experiencing the fruit of action. That if I do good actions, then I will receive the fruit of it, but he doesn't experience the reward of action.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is that he's beyond thinking anything negative.
Uh-huh.
That his thoughts are always benevolent and positive.
So this has such wonderful applications here. Let's start at the last and then start moving up on these things. Beyond thinking anything negative, then within the BK belief, God is not sitting up there judging and keeping score. Is that correct?
Oh, definitely not. He's not micromanaging like that. You know, people say about this little black book, and I'm thinking, God, but he doesn't have any other work to do? But also, there is a premise, and I really know from experience this premise to be true, is that if I have a negative thought, I experience sorrow.
Ah.
And God cannot have negative thoughts because he doesn't experience sorrow, because he is the ocean of love. He is the ocean of pure and positive thoughts. And so it's not possible for him to be judging, because that would be a negative thought about someone.
Yeah. So that seems like it should be really enriching to us to think of God is almost like the proud God who says, keep up the good work.
Yes, yes.
And when we are not doing that, it isn't God that's judging us so much as we suffer the consequences of our actions.
Yes, definitely. I feel we actually, when we start experiencing sorrow, that is when we start judging. And when we start experiencing sorrow is when we perform wrong actions. And usually under the influence of the vices or under the influence of illusions, we perform wrong actions. And then we start experiencing sorrow. But God, we reap the reward of good or bad.
Got it.
He's not doling out any of those things.
Yeah, okay, good. Let's move up the ladder. Reward of action. Now, in that, many people in Western traditions feel that they earn their way to heaven of sorts. Good actions and all. Good actions are important to the BKs, hugely important. But I gather they're more important to the here and the now, and you feel better when you do good actions. Is that essentially it?
Yeah, that is actually, interestingly enough, I want to talk about pure actions here.
Please.
That when I perform pure actions, especially when I become soul conscious and connect with God and perform pure actions, then not only my negative actions get kind of forgiven, absolved, canceled out, but I start accumulating good actions. And there is pleasure in accumulating good actions.
Brain science is pretty clear on this, that we get endorphin hits when someone does something nice and relates well to us, and we get endorphin hits when we do something good for someone else as well. So that pretty much goes with the spirituality.
Yes, yes. And so it's not necessarily that I have to do something just for heaven. Yes, it's good to do something for the after because our future depends on what we do in the present, but also our present changes. Our current circumstances change.
So that's a nice reason that while God is beyond the payoffs for actions, we're frankly not.
Yeah.
That we need to pay attention to be more benevolent if we want to live well in the here and now.
Right. Right. You know, it's interesting because what I've noticed with my own spiritual practice is the more I become soul conscious, or what we call soul consciousness, which is I become aware of myself as a soul, I'm naturally qualities like love and benevolence and kindness. I'm naturally those qualities. So I'm being that naturally. It's not like I'm trying to be good to someone, I'm trying to be kind to someone. That is my natural nature.
So it's less fake it till you make it and more experience it and achieve it.
Yes,
without
and
separation.
also exactly. And what happens in my living my natural nature is there is happiness in itself in living my natural nature.
I see a lot of freedom in starting from the premise that we are good. We are made to be good, and if we're not experiencing that, in a funny way, we're polluting our present tense. Is that kind of in line with where that fits?
Yes.
And so if I feel like I'm already horrible, I may not be as quick to help somebody. I don't know if that's accurate. Now moving up the ladder one more, God is beyond the physicalness, pleasure, pain. Talk to me about that.
Pleasure planes, like he doesn't experience sweet and sour. If you offer him something, he won't taste the food. He's not warm clothes, or he's the point of light. All of those heat or cold or thirsty or hungry. He's beyond all of those dualities, actually. But one of the things that we do in the briquets is offer food to God.
Talk to me about that.
And when I was thinking about this, I was actually thinking about that, and especially when I was working and I had a really bad day, what used to happen is I used to come home and invariably I used to make food, and when I was offering that food to God, I had my best meditations. And so, and at that time I used to ask myself the question, well, if you're not eating it, how come I'm so happy?
Well, I know that at the end of BK events and ceremonies, you have the tole, the little sweet something you give, and there is, it's too much of a stretch to say it's like communion, but it is a communion of agreement, of enjoyment or appreciation.
Yes, and also what I've noticed is that the reason I was so happy offering, even though he doesn't eat it and he takes the fragrance, is because of that sweetness, that purity that comes into the food. And then when I eat that food, that I purify the body and I purify the mind with that food. And so my bad day almost kind of washes away. It's almost like my heart is opening up to a different reality at that point.
This is funny, and I can say to our audience here that having eaten food at BK events, there is something very special beyond us being vegetarian and healthy and all of that. If you can buy into made with love, then that's how it tastes. It is a specialness, and I can't help but believe that in the vibrational difference when something is made with love, made mindfully, made with total awareness of connection to something greater than the physical us can experience it.
Yes.
And I think that's
and
part
also
of where,
right. And also what happens is because it's offered to him, even though he doesn't eat it, the vibrations that come into the food, that he's accepting my love
Yeah.
And that is what really makes the difference, I feel.
Yeah, we had a discussion ahead of this but I wouldn't want to bless toxic food and then eat it. I don't want to chance that.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
If I bless toxic food, or if God bless toxic food, will the toxins go away? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Yeah, that would be
I
a
mean,
great
I
type.
know some people really transcend mind over matter.
Yeah.
But at this point, I don't think I have the capacity.
Yeah.
Me personally, my own personal experience, I don't think I can give what we call drishti,
Yeah.
which is pure vision, to toxic food, and it becomes okay.
Yeah, I would not personally try that, but maybe because I'm not far enough along the pathless path. But there are lots of stories, and I can't remember which religious being it was, a guru in India, but it was one who'd gone off into the wilderness, as some are given to do, and had been there 20-some years. And this is a story I got from Ram Dass, actually. And when they went out to get him, and bring him back, because a government official had wanted him to be an advisor, they found him covered with snake bites, mainly cobras in that part of India. And they said, look at you, you've been covered, you've been bitten. And he said, you see snakes, I only see God. And in that funny way, I couldn't help but think of the changing of the food. Now that is control over his own body, that is truly mind over matter. And with great enough spirituality, perhaps that's the transcendence.
Yeah, I feel connecting with God long enough that
Yeah.
you can conquer matter, or matter will cooperate with you.
I think that cooperation is a nice metaphor on that.
And I've seen that with Dadi Janki.
Yeah.
She almost died many times, and then there was this one time she was sharing her experience of how she was on her deathbed, she was about to go, and then she became aware of herself as a soul and told the body, you have to get up, you have to move. And she did, and she's alive still.
Yeah, and she's 95?
She's 95, and how she told the legs and how she told the arms, and like she went into a whole meditation on how to do it, and she was able to get matter to cooperate with her. And I also feel it could be a blessing sometimes that when I was with Dadi recently, 3 weeks ago, she looked at me and she said that. She said, matter will cooperate with you.
Yeah, I think I feel, and this may be my Western thought, that I feel that lest we I'm not spiritual enough and beat ourselves up, we shouldn't say, oh gosh, I could never get there. It is that certain things have to align, don't feel bad if we don't think we could pull that off ourselves.
No, what I'm saying is not that we should feel bad we're not pulling it off, but there is a possibility for everyone.
Absolutely.
That potential is there for all of us. That's what I'm saying.
With lots of practice, meditation, right living, right thinking. Yeah, it's not an instant thing of saying, oh gosh, why?
Right.
Because I know that I've certainly had friends that are dealing with illnesses, and it's one thing to judge the illness, it's another thing to judge our judgment about the illness, and then that can create a spiral. However, being at peace with our souls beyond the duality of pleasure and pain, that's got to be a huge piece.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So let's come back to the first one you talked about, in the duality of God is beyond birth and death. And
I think that is the basic thing.
Yeah.
That is the premise for all the other things, is that when I accept that God is beyond the effect of action, is because He is beyond the cycle of birth and death. Mm-hmm. Because He stays in reserve. He's an objective, but He's not part of the whole play, the cosmic play. He's objective, and because He's objective, like I have parents, God is my parent, but God doesn't have parents. He's the highest.
Yeah.
And so that is why, and also for us, for me, it makes perfect spiritual sense, but because a point of light cannot die. Mm-hmm. It's just a point of light. And so He's pure consciousness in His point of light. And so there is no question of Him, He's immortal. There's no question of Him being born or dying or any of those things.
So as I wrap up then, it sounds to me that knowing that you are like a wonderful subset of this point of light, And tapping into that sense makes life a little bit easier on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, you know what I've experienced many, many times in meditation is me as immortal too. Even though I'm in this body, and even though I come through the cycle of birth and death, that if I connect with him and if I go into deeper enough meditation, yes, I can experience immortality.
Which is a nice feeling on our day-to-day living. I hope this has been helpful to you. It has to me. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
you,
Dan.
Shireen.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye.